speak with Terry Geyer. So Terry, one of the things that I found interesting about having you with Pamela is that both of you are doing something for the history of tomorrow. So she's looking towards a better world for tomorrow, and you are doing two things that I think is interesting historically speaking. You're using historically important styles of painting, the old masters styles, and you've just been commissioned to paint a very important piece of art for this community, again for this community. Tell us about the society and the story.
It's a series of paintings for the Silicon Valley Luminary Society. This was set up by a retired patent attorney, and he really loves art, and he feels that he wants to be an inspiration to young potential inventors. And the society was set up originally to produce a series of paintings showing the inventors of the valley and how old they were when they actually made their invention and their invention. The first painting was painted by a local gentleman. It was a very huge painting in 3 panels, 6 foot. I'm sorry, it was each panel was 6 foot by 9 foot, 3 panels.
6 foot tall by 9 foot wide?
It's 9 feet tall by 6 foot wide, and they were put together. There were 3 panels, and so it's 18 feet wide by 9 feet tall.
And so that's the first installation into the museum that has yet to be created.
Yes.
Okay.
This painting included 14 major inventors prior to World War II that were in the valley. Like Farnsworth invented the television, the Packards, of course, and several other inventors. The valley's got such a rich history of inventors.
It certainly does. It certainly does.
It's just amazing. And that gentleman, his health isn't good enough to take on this bigger projects anymore. So I luckily was commissioned to do the remaining pieces, which right now we've clarified there's 7 of them with 5 inventors each.
7 paintings, 5 inventors. Okay.
So that's like 35.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people to paint. You have. Let's talk a little bit about your what you're doing. Your style is you're using the old style of the masters. And when you first to learn this, you had to first copy the masters, like the piece you have here in the studio. And you also learned the classical style of painting. So not only the imagery, but there's a particular style that you have to use in order for this to work properly with the luminescence of the skin tones and things like this.
Yes.
Now we have some images in the studio to show our viewers on how you started this. So if you could roll those, what are the children?
The Calmady children.
The Calmady children. Yeah. And here we go. If you take a look here, we have the Calmady children. Now first it's the drawings, right?
Right.
Drawings, are they in, is this ink?
Yeah, what it is that the drawings are done. The classical painting method was separated everything into stages. So you solve one problem at a time. The drawing, then the tonal qualities, and you work it up into the grays, and then
with the black and white one.
So the first one is the drawing, and I'm starting to do the inking. Now the ink, what you do is you put the drawing down, and then once you've got that correct, you ink around the major lines. So then the second piece shows an imprimatura, which is which is a thin coat of
looks like a lot of blue and brown.
Yeah, the ink lines show through so that you always have the drawing.
Okay.
If you make an error or something, you can wipe down the area you're working on, and that under area will show again.
Okay, now these are all in oil, of course. When you say thin, so you thin it with, for people that are not familiar with oil paint, everyone knows about turpentine, and they know about oil, and they know about the paint itself.
Yeah,
so now there's mediums too, right? And that's kind of a mixture of stuff.
Yeah. Now, in the early stages, you work with primarily turpentine and just a little bit of varnish. What this makes is sort of a watercolor situation, so that you thin an umber paint to almost a watercolor texture, and where it has to be lighter, it's more thin, and where it's darker, using more pigment. And then so you work it up as a sort of a watercolor underneath. And then after you've got all the tones roughed in, then you actually paint it in. This could be, you'll go over it and let it dry maybe 2-3 times.
Okay.
And then
Now, we're going to talk about the next one. Can we have the third photo up? There it is. So now I've got this. What's this one called?
Okay, that's called the dead layer or the grisaille. In other words, that's a completely finishing the painting, all the detail, or for primary most of the detail, all in grays. You've pretty much defined the tonal qualities and the umber layers, but it's still very rough. Well, from that, you're guiding off those umber layers, and you're matching those tones in grays, and now you're pretty much painting the painting in gray.
Interesting. So those other tones, then they're actually coming through. Maybe you don't see them as well in the photos on the TV because it's not very high quality.
Yes, you do get a little bit of that through, but for the most part, the light tones of gray are obliterating the browns pretty much. This is the part where you're really refining the tonal quality and the drawing. Now you've got your drawing solved, you've got your tonal quality solved, now it's time to go to color. If you try to make all the refinements and changes and stuff in the color will look overworked and harsh. And you lose the color tones and while you're fumbling around trying to get it right. You can do all that fumbling around in the tonal qualities, and when you put the color on, the color's fresh, it's translucent. You're getting tones from underneath. If it's thinner, you're getting the cool tones from the gray coming out, and that's giving that pearlescent quality that you'll see in museums. The next one I did, which was a DaVinci copy on a panel on wood.
I don't know if we have time to look at the DaVinci painting too, because I want to talk to you a little bit more about the Silicon Valley Luminary Society. Let's just put it up really quickly. If we could have those images up, here you go. We're going to go through this rather quickly. What we've got is the drawing and the what's this one called?
The imprimatura. This one's a little clearer because I had the system down better.
Okay. And then the next one is going to be we're going to just
umber layers.
Hold on, here it goes. Okay, umber layer is the third one, and
then the gray,
there's
the dead
gray
layer.
Again. Amazing. Okay, and then the final picture. Look at that. I mean, can you imagine? This is not Da Vinci. This is a man right here from the Palo Alto region. It's great. How lucky are we to have somebody like you to paint the inventors of Silicon Valley who are from a young age, and you don't have them because they're no longer young. They're not even some of them alive.
No, I have been lucky enough to meet a couple of the inventors. They're still alive, and they have fascinating stories.
I know how important it is to have a good material to paint from.
Exactly.
And since you have been practiced at painting from, not from life, and you do a fine job, so we're very lucky to have you do this for this community and for in general.
Thank you.
Yeah. What about making so many so large, because you don't want those things to wobble around or get loose? So what else do you have to worry about?
Because they're so large, you do have to be very careful about how it's constructed. I mean, it's a direct painting method. You're painting it all at one time, and the layer is like one layer on top of the surface, and that's got more integrity. But if you do use a Flemish or a master style like this, where it's multiple layers, you have to be careful about how it builds up, that it builds up correctly.
You called it a Flemish style?
Yeah, it's a. This is based on the Flemish style. There are a couple of variations, the Flemish and the Italian. There's Italian styles, the Venetians, and I'm kind of using a hybrid of all of them, and then with some changes.
Times.
I've been doing this for a long time, so you know, I deviated from a direct path, but it works for me. So I want to make sure that these are constructed well. They will end up in a museum. The next stage for the Luminary Society is to help raise raise funds for a history museum in this area and to capture this great history in the Silicon Valley.
Now, how are you going to be raising funds?
I'm not doing it.
But the paintings.
The Silicon Valley Luminary Society.
Now, but it's a very small group with a very tight focus of what they're doing and why they're doing it. They have one issue, one reason why they're together, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is it. Those paintings in the museum.
He finds a very strong purpose in creating these paintings and you know, helping to inspire young people to also become inventors.
The other thing you told me is that you were very happy to meet somebody of their stature and of their age that have such energy, drive, and focus, because it gave you were very happy to meet somebody like that. Evidently,
and
like that before.
Over the last few weeks, I've met more 80-year-old PhDs than
with a lot of life and focus and drive.
Yeah, they're, you know. So now I say I have a lot of years ahead of me.
Well, yeah, that's very inspiring. So they're inspiring people in many ways, and they probably don't even realize it.
They have a strong sense of purpose, and they're you know, they all work towards their sense of purpose, and it's really good to see.